Hello listeners, here we go. This is episode number 812, and as I said at the end of the last episode, it's back to normal podcasting today, which means that we are back to the usual mix of conversation, culture and humour with bits of vocabulary and general knowledge. I hope you enjoy the episode and learn some things from it too. Obviously, in the last episode, I talked about the crisis in Turkey and Syria following the series of earthquakes that happened there last week. This situation is ongoing and is still very serious, of course. Millions of people are in need of assistance, and we all have the option to help out by supporting charities which are trying to bring aid to those people. So please consider supporting those charities. The Disasters Emergency Committee is an association that you can donate to. That's dec.org.uk. Of course, there may be other charities operating from your countries which you can also consider donating to. Okay, so that's just a thought and a suggestion there, following on from what I talked about in episode 811. Right, so back to this episode, number 812. So this episode was recorded a few weeks ago, in January, and this one is all about the Life in the UK test, which is a multiple choice test that people take as part of the application process for British citizenship. I'm joined by Cara Leopold in this episode. She is a fellow English teacher from the UK. Can she pass the Life in the UK test? Can a British person pass this test? And could you pass it too? Even if you're not planning to become a UK citizen, do you know the answers to these questions? Let's test your knowledge of British stuff. So you can see this as a quiz if you like, and you can see it as a chance to learn some stuff about the UK that you might not know. And of course, watch out for useful vocabulary as it arises. And generally, you can just tune in to the sounds of English as it is spoken. If you're listening to the audio version, then stick around until the end and I'll chat to you a bit more then. I'll have a bit of a ramble, which is often what happens at the end of the audio versions of these episodes. Video versions on YouTube don't usually have those extra bits at the end, by the way. So consider subscribing to the audio podcast for some extra stuff, especially at the beginning and at the ends of episodes. And also because when you listen to the audio version, you can just focus on the voices that you're hearing without having to sit and look at the screen. So you can multitask, you can do other things at the same time, like doing some ironing, right? Ironing your clothes if you bother to iron them. Or travelling on a bus, or cooking, or just lying down in a dark room with your eyes closed if that's what you feel like doing. Okay, so you can do all those things while listening to the audio version. It's up to you, of course, but just search for Luke's English Podcast in a podcast app of your choice if you want to subscribe to the audio episodes as well. Right then. So I'm now going to stop this introduction so you can now go back in time a little bit and listen to my other introduction as I introduce you to Cara, have a bit of a chat with her, and then get started properly with the test. And that's all going to start right now. So here we go. Right now, here, now, right now, go. Hello, listeners. Welcome to a new episode of Luke's English Podcast. You pressed play and it appears to be working, right? If you can hear my voice and that's what you wanted to happen, congratulations. This is it. Welcome back to the show, everyone. So, yes, I've got a slightly sore throat, listeners. I don't know if you can hear that. You might be thinking, what's wrong with Luke's voice? I've got a slightly sore throat, but don't worry. Before you send me your messages of concern, don't worry, everything's fine. It's just a little bit of a sore throat. But we'll see if my voice survives the recording of this episode. But that's okay, because I won't be doing all the talking today, because I do have a guest joining me, and that is Cara Leopold from leo-listening.com. And we're going to be talking about British citizenship and the British citizenship test, which is difficult to say. I mean, that should be in the test, I suppose. Just question 1, can you say British citizenship test? So Cara is back on the podcast. Hello, Cara. How are you?
Hi, Luke. Yeah, well, like I said earlier, I'm slightly terrified because the wind is howling outside and I'm worried something might fall through my Velux window, which is above me. Hence, that's why my forehead is all shiny, because the the light is coming down through the Velux. But apart from that, yeah, I'm fine. Although I am actually quite scared about doing this British citizenship test and saying it. Even, like you say, even saying it's hard. So God only knows what the actual test will be like.
Well, we'll see, won't we? I have done some of this kind of stuff before on the podcast, but it sort of never grows old, really, because there's quite a lot of different things that you end up talking about with the British citizenship. I always end up becoming Sean Connery when I say that. The British citizenship test. So I have done some of this before, but it's nice to be back talking about this subject. But anyway, Cara, this is I think your 5th time on the show.
Could well be,
so welcome back.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, listeners, you might remember Cara and me talking in previous episodes, including most recently number 690, in which we compared urban and rural life and life away from the UK, and also other episodes, including the one about the climate crisis, and also about learning English with films and TV series. Cara, your website is leo-listening.com. Just remind us what you do over there on your website.
What do I do? Yeah, teach listening skills with movies, I guess, is the main thing I'm doing. And then, helping people understand fast-talking native speakers thanks to movies, and also helping people listen to each other, connect with each other through movies by discussing them, because I have a movie club, which has started during the pandemic, and that's been fun. We've watched loads of really good movies and discussed them. And yeah, what better thing is there to do with your time than watch films and then talk about them, So
yeah, absolutely. So yeah, if people are interested in improving their English with TV series and films, you're a good person to go to, because you can kind of help them do it, because it's not just as simple as sitting down in front of Netflix. There are certain other things that you can and should do.
Exactly.
And you're the person who can tell them all about that.
Indeed.
Yeah. Cara, correct me if I'm wrong, but you are originally from Scotland.
I am.
So I got the Cara Leopold, question 1 in the Cara Leopold test.
Yeah.
Correct. And you also lived in England for some years as well.
I did, yeah. That's where I was living before I moved to France, yes. So I've lived in... But will this help me on the citizenship test? I'm more British than perhaps other people are, because I've lived in Scotland and in England, although I haven't lived in the UK for 15 years. So that's probably a big black mark on my possibilities for doing well on this test. But
luckily, we don't have to retake the British citizenship test if we want to go back.
God, could you imagine? They wouldn't let me back in.
That would be ridiculous.
Yeah, that would be, like...
No, we'd never get back in.
I can't vote now, because I've been away for 15... Well, I don't know exactly how it works. I think after 15 years you can't vote, but I don't know how they, calculate it. I guess according to when you started voting abroad kind of thing, if that makes sense. So I think for me the cutoff might be 2010, even though I moved in 2007. But now, of course, because I have French citizenship, I can vote in France, and I did in 22. I voted loads of times because everything in France is in, you have premier tour, deuxième tour, you have multiple tours. What would we call that in English? You have more than one round of voting.
Right.
Yeah. So I voted in the presidential elections, and I voted in the legislative. There was a lot of elections in 2022, and I voted a lot. So
just constantly voting in French elections. So you live in France like me. I mean, we dealt with this in full detail in the last time you were on the show, that I live in Paris, but you live out in Besançon. Check out my pronunciation. I can actually say it correctly now.
Not bad. Well done.
Which is in the east of France. So you've been here for 15 years, right? And you're French now, are you?
I am, yeah. They gave me, I got French nationality last year, about this time last year, actually. I got the little email from them. So that was all made official, in the summer. They gave me some official looking stuff. But yeah, it meant I could vote. So that was kind of, it doesn't really change much, but I got a French passport. Oh, and I got a French ID card. You get all this cool stuff after you become French. Yeah. Well, I mean, you have to pay for your passport and everything.
You get the laminated French ID card. You get a nice EU passport.
Yeah, having the EU passport is definitely the big draw there for the French nationality. That's why I applied to have what I used to have by being British.
Yeah, I know. Oh God, Brexit. Let's not go there.
I know.
So okay, but as well as being a French citizen now, you're still a British citizen as well because you've got dual citizenship, right? That's the way it works. Correct?
Yeah, you don't have to like choose one or the other. Yeah.
All right, so you are both a French and British citizen, technically.
I am.
Okay, so question for you then, Cara. Do you feel less British now after having lived away for 15 years and having become French too? Do you feel any less British than you did before?
Yeah, that's a good question because maybe like you could say, well, now she's half and half. So, or she's like 200%. She's like 100%. Of one and 100% of the other. I've been criticised on this show before for my maths skills because of not knowing the difference between X and Y axes on a graph. So maybe I shouldn't start going down the quantifying route. I don't know actually. I don't know. It's an interesting question. No, I don't think so. I still feel fairly connected to Britain. I mean, it's only the country next door, but I am glad I'm not living there for various reasons. But
really?
And I'm very happy to have an EU passport, even though we said we wouldn't go there down the Brexit route. So yeah, no, I feel kind of the same as before, and I'm glad they gave me French nationality. I was worried that I wouldn't pass my little interview, but I did.
Was it difficult? Was it a difficult process to become French?
Like just kind of, so it's the typical kind of French thing where you need to like, you have to do create a dossier. So there's loads of paperwork to hand in and that can take a long time to get together, but it's not difficult per se. It's just long. It takes a really long time. And, like I sent my application off in like the autumn of 2019. And then I didn't even get like an acknowledgement letter until February 2020. And then we all know what happened after that. So, yeah, it's just long. And then in 2021, I did the interview. So there's no test per se in France. Like there would be a language test, but that's only if you haven't like completed any studies in French. And because I had actually studied at university here, that counts as you passing the language test because they kind of consider, well, if you've studied in France, you probably speak good enough French to, not have to do the test. And then, yeah, you do this interview. You have to go to the préfecture and in some random office and somebody asks you questions about La République and also weird intrusive questions about like, are your neighbors French? Are your friends French? And all this. Are you a member of any association? Yeah. I was really shocked by those questions. They're like, what are you asking me that for? But they're trying to like figure out how integrated you are into French life.
So are they asking you like general knowledge questions about La République? And by the way, listeners, that's the Republic. That's not Larry Public. It's not a guy called Larry Public. Like, who's Larry Public and why is he so important? No, it's La République. Anyway, so they ask you questions about like the history of like modern France and stuff, do they? Yeah,
like exactly. Yeah, like what are some symbols of the Republic? Like what is a democracy? I thought the questions were a bit silly. Like sort of what is a democracy? Like, but you do have to be prepared to answer it. And yeah, they give you like a little booklet to revise from, which has some like key dates in French history. And yeah, and I actually wasn't going to bother revising. And then my partner had a go at me and he was like, you might not pass if you don't learn this stuff. So he kind of forced me to learn it. And then he sort of tested me on it a bit. But the other types of questions, I had no idea because I hadn't bothered really preparing it or doing much research into it because I thought it was a kind of a bit of a formality. I think it is. But yeah, I wasn't prepared for and like he was like, you should have lied about who your friends are Because like I did mention that I have like foreign friends and I have friends who are like American or whatever, but I also have French friends. I mean, I don't really see what difference it makes, you know, like, and yes, my neighbours are French, but for lots of people who've just arrived in France, that's not true. Like if you're a foreigner, you often end up in neighbourhoods where there's a lot of foreigners. Like, and that's not really your fault. So I thought that was a bit discriminatory to be like, you know, why don't you live in the right area of town with all the French people, you know?
Plus, if you are sort of coming to France and you don't hold French values, and in fact you're only coming to take sort of advantage of it, and in fact maybe you even sort of hate aspects of France, which is probably what they're trying to filter out. They're probably trying to prevent those people from getting citizenship. But it's a really easy test to cheat on.
Yeah, you just lie. Yeah.
So, do you have French friends? Yeah. Good. Okay. Well, that was easy. It's like when you come to the airport and they ask you security questions. They're just so easy to get them right. You know, it's just like, are you affiliated with any terrorist organizations?
Let me think.
No. You know, like, yes. Well, there's no. Sorry. Oh, damn. You know, or when you arrive in Australia and they say, or New Zealand, and they say, have you been in contact with any controlled or illegal substances in the last 2 weeks? And you're like, no.
Not me,
no, of course
sir.
I haven't.
You could literally just lie. And also what I didn't like, it's like me and like this one other woman at the préfecture in her office. There's not like a panel of people. Like, so it could just be like, I don't know, you turn up and she doesn't like your face or something. Funnily enough, we were both wearing masks when this interview took place. So, you know, that person could just decide, I don't like you. I don't like the look of you, and just decide to not give you... I mean, it didn't seem very... potentially like not objective, and she was just like making notes. She could have been writing anything. I don't know what she was writing. Like, she hasn't got any French friends. Well, I do, but anyway, yeah, I didn't think it was so important.
Okay.
So yeah, you probably, if you do want to do it, you should probably prepare a bit better than I did. But your wife is French, right? And I think that gives you a lot of brownie points.
Yes. Because I've really integrated.
Yeah, you're really integrated. But I was like, at the end of the interview, I was like, my partner is French. I don't want to live in the UK. I'm not going back to the UK. Like, I really insisted. Like, please don't send me away.
Basically, just throw out loads of French references. Our partner's French. I like love. Gérard Depardieu.
I'm more French than the French.
Serge Gainsbourg. Naked people in films. Okay, you're in. Yeah, give her the passport now. She said all the right things. Arguing in the street, little coffees that taste not very nice, bread, different types of bread.
Loads of bread, yeah. I had a croissant this morning before I came to this interview. Does that count?
Come with all the croissant crumbs still on your clothes, like literally walk into the test room, brushing off the remnants of the croissant and like wiping it away from your mouth. Bees the woman or man in there when you go, kiss them on the cheek like multiple times, then you're definitely gonna get in. Anyway, let's turn our attention to the British citizenship test, which you don't need to take, but we're going to do anyway. As I've said, I have done this before with Paul Taylor. I'm pretty sure he failed. But in fact, I wonder if most British citizens would actually pass this test, which does raise all sorts of questions about citizenship, questions which we probably won't try to answer here because, frankly, they are rather difficult philosophical discussion points around how we define national identity. I'll name some of those questions, but I'm not going to try and answer them. For example, what does it mean to be a citizen of a country? Is it just about where you were born? Is it just about where your parents were born? Is it where you live? Is it about the values which you have? Is it about how you integrate with the values of the country where you live now? Is it about the way that you live and the things you do? Is it about the place that you've come from and the reasons you've come to this particular country? Is it about your knowledge of the history of the place where you've moved to? How do we test these things in less than 1 hour? There's a lot to it. Anyway, let's see now, listeners, if Cara can do better than Paul. And also, let's see generally what we can learn about British life. And I need to say this as well. Okay, obviously, if Cara gets any questions wrong in this British citizenship test, some people will be shocked. And they'll think, how can she not know things about her own country? Ignorance should be punished. She should be banished from the kingdom forever, is what some people might think if they're having a bad day. So if you are one of those people out there who can't handle it if we get any of these questions wrong, then good luck to you, basically. So let's get started, Cara. So I think I probably need to do some info about the test first, just to cover some details.
Oh yeah, that would be good, because I know zero about this test. So I'm really starting from scratch here. Okay.
So let's have a little look. What is the test? This is from lifeintheuktests.co.uk. Life in the UK. The Life in the UK test is a computer-based multiple-choice test containing 24 questions and is designed to test applicants' knowledge of life in the United Kingdom. It's part of the application process for citizenship in the UK. So as well as doing other things, application forms and so on, you also have to do this test. Everybody in the age bracket of 18 to 64 is required to pass this test as part of their citizenship or their indefinite leave to remain application. The pass mark for the test is 75%. Okay? That's the equivalent of 18 out of 24 questions answered correctly.
Okay.
The information is based on the Life in the UK book, which is similar to what you said in France. They have a leaflet which contains sort of a lot of dates and things. The Life in the UK test is based on a whole book, a booklet. So the chapters of the book, these are the things that you might be tested on. Values and principles of the UK. All right. What is the UK?
Okay.
The history of the UK from early Britain through the Middle Ages, through the Tudors and Stuarts, all the way up until the sort of industrial period of the British Empire, then the 20th century and modern Britain since sort of 1945. Chapter 4 of the book, which could come up in the test, is about Britain today, the modern makeup of the UK, including its religion, its customs and traditions, sports, arts and culture, leisure, places of interest. And then chapter 5 is all about the government and how the government works, the law, the British Constitution, British and international institutions, and your role in the community. Okay, I think we're going to get started. Are you ready?
I am ready, yeah. I still don't really know what to expect exactly. And I can't believe they only ask 24 questions and they're multiple choice.
24 questions, multiple choice. We're going to start the test. I'm going to share my screen with you.
Okay.
So that you can actually see these questions at the same time as me. Okay, then. Right, so we are now going to start the test, Cara.
Let's do it.
Here we go. So, question number 1 is, where is the cenotaph located? Where is the cenotaph located?
Okay,
do you know what the cenotaph is?
Is what already? So I'm gonna have to approach it. I feel like we're playing Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. So I'm gonna sort of go for a process of elimination. So the options are Dorset, Trafalgar Square, Whitehall, and Wiltshire. So I'm gonna eliminate the first and last ones, and then that leaves me with Trafalgar Square or Whitehall. And just instinctively, I want to say Trafalgar Square, even though I'm not sure.
So just to kind of clarify this for those people listening who probably have got no idea what any of these questions are about, to be honest. So the cenotaph, right, is where is the cenotaph? And all right, we'll deal with that in a minute. But the options are, as you said, Cara, Dorset, Trafalgar Square, Whitehall, or Wiltshire. So Dorset and Wiltshire are both counties in England. These are sort of large areas in England. Dorset and Wiltshire are both in the sort of west or southwest, pretty much.
Yeah.
And then Trafalgar Square and Whitehall are both parts of London. Okay, Whitehall is a road where you find 10 Downing Street is off Whitehall, and Trafalgar Square is a famous square in London with the National Gallery and statues and Nelson's Column and stuff like that. So the cenotaph, you reckon it's in Trafalgar Square or Whitehall, Do you?
Yeah. Well, now I'm getting worried. I don't even know London that well. Do you know
what
I mean?
it is, though?
Huh? Is it some kind of monument?
It's some kind of monument.
Do you know what it is?
Yeah, I do. More or less. Yeah.
More or less.
I do.
Is this
anyway, but I'm not
for-
being tested because
you're not being. Let me just go with Trafalgar. I want to just go with what my gut instinct was, and that was Trafalgar Square. Who cares if it's wrong?
Okay. You're
bugger!
wrong.
It's in Whitehall. Okay.
It's in Whitehall. So the cenotaph is exactly some kind of monument, and it's a monument to people who died in World War One. The cenotaph is a war memorial on Whitehall in London, designed by Sir Edwin Lutyens, unveiled in 1920 as the United Kingdom's national memorial to the British and Commonwealth dead of the First World War. So it's a World War One war memorial.
It's quite important
in the centre of London.
quite an important thing.
On the 11th of November, Remembrance Day.
Oh, they put wreaths on
the King. They put wreaths of poppies on there, red flowers on there as a mark of commemoration. So there you go.
Well, I learned something. Good for me.
Okay, here's the next question. Question 2. What created the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland? What created the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland? So the options are the Act of Union, the Act for the Governments, the Great Governments, or the Great Union.
So this requires a bit of historical knowledge. I'm actually going to go with the first one, the Act of Union.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds right to me.
It's worth noting as well here that the question says what created the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland. So that's not Northern Ireland, that's Ireland. So there was a time when Ireland was part of the United Kingdom.
True.
By the way, listeners, obviously that's not the case anymore. It's just Northern Ireland. So you're saying the Act of Union. I don't know. I think I would choose the Act of Union. We'll see. Yes, you are right.
There we go. I've got one right. I'm off the hook now. So
I guess the Act of Union probably happened.
I'm thinking of there was that king, James I of England and James VI of Scotland. Was he not the one who united us? Was he not behind? Yeah,
well, there was the Union of England and Scotland, 1707.
So right.
Yeah, that's then. But there were various different acts of union that took place. But anyway, you got the question right. Congratulations, 50%. You're on 50% now. Hello, everybody. Just for your information, this is some text from Wikipedia about the union with Great Britain. In 1800, following the Irish Rebellion of 1798, the Irish and the British Parliaments enacted the Acts of Union. The merger created a new political entity called United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland, with effect from the 1st of January 1801. So there you go. I bet you're glad you know that now, aren't you? Yes, of course you are. Right, let's carry on. So, question 3. Which flag... Are you ready for this one? Which flag has a white cross on a blue background? Oh, it's a difficult one.
It's a tricky one. I might just horribly embarrass myself and bring shame on my nation by deliberately getting it wrong.
Blue background, white cross. Which one is it?
Good God, what could it be?
Ireland, Scotland, England, or Wales?
That sounds like the English flag. No. No, it's the Scottish. It's the Scottish flag. I am confident about this one. Of course,
it's the Scottish flag. Yeah. You're absolutely right, of course. The English flag being white with a red cross. The Welsh one is the best because there's a big red dragon on it.
Fierce.
Question number 4. The UK government hasn't used the power to suspend the Northern Ireland Assembly. The UK government has not used the power to suspend the Northern Ireland Assembly. Is this true or false?
I'm even struggling to understand what that means. Didn't the Northern Ireland Assembly kind of suspend itself? Don't they have various issues?
They've got some issues. That's certainly true.
They've got some issues. Yeah, it's not easy in Northern Ireland. Well, because if they suspend themselves, then, or is that a UK thing? You know, because we have these devolved parliaments, but sometimes the UK or the Westminster government kind of goes, no, you're not doing that. You can't have your referendum or...
Just a bit of commentary just before we continue, just for the listeners who are wondering about this question as well. So the UK government, obviously mainly based in Westminster in London, where most of the big decisions are made. But then during Tony Blair's government, mainly, there was a lot of devolution, which is basically the transfer of power to local governments in Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland, and there are parliaments in those areas, in those places too, including one in Northern Ireland, which is called the Northern Ireland Assembly.
Because the Scottish Parliament is called the Scottish Parliament, but Wales and Northern Ireland, they only have an assembly? Is that not the same thing as a parliament?
It's basically the same thing, just different name. I don't know why the Scottish Parliament and the Northern Ireland Assembly and the Welsh Assembly, I don't know why they've got different names, but essentially they're the same thing. I think Scotland's got more power. So the government has the power to suspend, to suspend those parliaments or assemblies. And the Northern Irish one is particularly susceptible to this, I guess, if things break down in some way. Because obviously the Troubles have been, problematic and stuff between the Loyalists and the Republicans, and their sort of vaguely associated or less vaguely associated political parties, which share the Northern Ireland Assembly. So anyway, do you think it's ever been necessary for the UK government to essentially suspend the power of the Northern Ireland Assembly and say, all right, you're cancelled for a while. We're going to close you for a while while you sort out your issues.
Yeah, see, I was going to say, I just find the statement really confusing, it's like, because it's like a negative, it's a negative, The government
hasn't used the power to suspend the Northern Ireland Assembly. It's confusing when there's like a negative involved.
Yeah. So I was going to say true, but then like, discussing it with you, I almost want to say false, because surely there have been instances where this perhaps made political sense. But I'm just going to go with my first instinct, which was true, which could be wrong.
So you think that everything's been fine in Northern Ireland during this time?
No,
and the government has gone, yeah, you just carry on. Yeah, no, everything's fine. Well, let's see. You're going true. It's wrong.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. So
since 1997, which is what we just said, we didn't say 1997, but anyway, since 1997, when Tony Blair did come into power, some powers have been devolved from the central government to give people in Wales, Scotland and Northern Ireland more control over matters that directly affect them. There has been a Welsh Assembly and a Scottish Parliament since 1999. There is also a Northern Ireland Assembly, although this has been suspended on a few occasions.
There we go then. Well, I confused myself by saying, hasn't the Northern Ireland Assembly just kind of suspended itself, like without the Westminster government intervening? Anyway, okay. Well, that's interesting. Well, that's worrying. I don't know. Worrying, interesting, however you want to...
a combination. I mean, we don't know exactly why it was suspended, and also don't know exactly how it was suspended either. So it might well be possible that the Northern Irish government essentially suspended itself by probably like one of the parties refusing to sit in the assembly for some reason. That's normally the way that happens, because they just refuse to speak to each other.
Yeah, it's not happy families.
Yes. And that might effectively cause that might mean that the Northern Ireland Assembly suspends itself, but it's actually the UK government who sort of presses the legal button to make it happen, sort of thing.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah. All right.
Next question. Oh, another difficult one, Cara. Question 5. When is Christmas Eve? When is Christmas Eve? Would you like the options?
Yeah, read them out. Go on.
Christmas Eve, is it the 24th of December, the 25th of December, the 23rd of December, or the 26th of December?
You're very good at reading them out so as not to give away the answer.
Because if I was to read it in that way, it would be the 24th of December, or the 25th of December, the 23rd of December, or the 26th of December, or that first option again, the 24th of December. Wink, wink, wink.
The last time I checked, the Christmas Eve was on the 24th of December.
Yeah, of course. What do we call the 25th?
Christmas Day.
Christmas Day. What about the 26th?
That's Boxing Day. Don't ask me about why that's called.
No one knows why it's called Boxing Day. And what about the 23rd? What do we call the 23rd?
Well, that's like unofficially known as Christmas Eve's Eve.
That's right. It's also General Panic Day, isn't it? Of like, I haven't got all my presents.
Oh, God, yeah, there's no food in the house.
Run to the shops. Yeah. Okay, next. Question 6. What is the capital of England? What is the capital of England? The options: Edinburgh, Belfast, Cardiff, or London.
Tough one. Notice that it asks about the capital of England. Not the capital of the UK.
Basically, what's the capital of the most important of the 4 countries
all
in the UK?
Right. Scottish people exist. Thank you.
No, I'm joking, of course. There might be a capital of Scotland question. It's random, you know. They just randomly come in from...
so they could, I'm sure, you must, they obviously ask about the capitals of the other nations. So it's London.
It's London, of course, yeah.
You almost clicked Cardiff.
Did I? Whoops. Capital of Scotland?
Edinburgh.
Capital of Wales?
Is Cardiff. And
capital of Northern Ireland?
Is Belfast. So there you go.
Belfast, okay. Oh, question 7, another history question.
Oh, God.
What did the Chartists campaign for? The Chartists. What did the Chartists campaign for?
Something to do with charts? No.
Like pop charts.
Like charts and graphs.
Charts. Oh no, we're back to charts and graphs again. X and Y axes.
Yeah.
Okay, the Chartists. So, did they campaign for the right to vote for the working class, or the right to vote for women, the right to vote for 18-year-olds, or the right to vote for 21-year-olds? I don't know why it says the women.
Which women?
The 21.
The 21. Oh dear.
It should just be women.
The grammar mistake in the...
Yeah, who wrote this?
I want a refund.
So, was it the right to vote for the working class, for women, for 18-year-olds, or 21-year-olds?
Okay. I could just Google the answer, couldn't I? But I'm not going to cheat.
No.
I mean, the right to vote for the working class, that looks quite tempting. Votes for women, that was the suffragettes. And then, because the rights to vote, they kind of been handed down piecemeal over the years, right? So it maybe started off, it was like men, but it was only some men. Men of a certain class, men of a certain age, and then, it eventually gets down to women or whatever. I don't know. I'm going to go for the first one because that just looks plausible to me.
Working class people is the correct answer.
Yeah.
Well done. Quick Chartists, quick search for Chartism. Chartism was a working class movement for political reform in the United Kingdom that erupted like a volcano from 1838 to 1857 and was the strongest in 1839, 1842 and 1848. It took its name from the People's Charter of 1838 and was a national protest movement with particular strongholds of support in Northern Ireland, the East Midlands, the Staffordshire Potteries, the Black Country and the South Wales Valleys. Basically a working class protest movement in order to campaign for the rights of working class people, including getting them the vote. Okay.
Good for them.
Question 8. Yeah, good for them. Question 8. What is not... Here's another negative question. What is not a fundamental principle of British life?
Don't laugh.
What is not a fundamental principle of British life? The options: looking after yourself and your family. I'm confused, but what is not? Is that a fundamental principle of British life? Looking after yourself and your family?
I would have put going down the pub or something like that.
going down the pub is a fundamental principle, but we're deciding which ones are not fundamental principles. So looking after yourself, is that a fundamental? I mean, we're known for drinking too much and eating fairly bad food. So I don't know, maybe this is not a fundamental principle.
It's how we show we care.
Yeah.
Here, get those 9 pints down your neck. It's because I love you.
Yeah, drink more beer. Don't eat properly. There we go. Look after yourself and your family. What is not a fundamental principle of British life? Treating others with fairness, looking after the environment, or driving a car. So which one of these things is not a very important principle? Looking after yourself and your family, treating other people with fairness, looking after the environment, or driving a car. Which one is not that important in terms of British principles?
Yeah, well, I mean, I want to say driving a car, but I actually think in reality on the ground, a lot of people act as if driving a car is their fundamental birthright. And the best thing about being alive is just being able to sit on a couch on wheels and beep at people and go fast.
Mm-hmm. Like Jeremy Clarkson. He would say, it's driving a car. That's obviously would be his answer, right?
Is a fundamental principle, but we're saying is not. So just put driving a car, please.
You're right. Driving a car is not a fundamental principle of British life. It's not what defines British life. But looking after yourself and your family, obviously very important. Treating other people with fairness is apparently very important. And looking after the environment is another fundamental principle of British life. But I mean, I don't know who decided these things, but there it is. You got the question right. Yeah. Next. Question 9. Which of these is a famous classical music event in the UK?
Oh, there's some good answers.
Yeah. Do you want to read out the answers?
So the answers are the Proms, Tea in the Park, Creamfields, Glastonbury Festival. I put a lot of emphasis on Creamfields, but that's not the answer. Creamfields is one for all you ravers in the nation.
Which one is a famous classical music event?
I know this one. It's the Proms.
Right.
And we can talk about the others.
Yeah, I think we should. So the Proms is this famous classical music event in the UK. It happens the last night of the Proms, happens at the Royal Albert Hall, and it's a big classical music extravaganza. Lots of people waving British flags and singing Britannia, and Britannia rules the waves. It's a bit much, really. Yeah. What about the other events? Tea in the Park, Creamfields, Glastonbury. Tea in the Park?
So Tea in the Park, we drove past it one year actually with my partner when we were on holiday in Scotland. I actually never understood where it was. So so I think Tea in the Park has ended. It's not on anymore. But it was held for a long time in Scotland. Is it in Perthshire, something like that? I actually have a really bad grasp on Scottish geography, even though I'm Scottish. Just as a kid, I just remember getting like bundled into a car and taken on holiday places, and then you fall asleep and you wake up 2 hours later somewhere else in Scotland, and you don't really know which direction you went in. So Tea in the Park was a kind of like indie music, rock music festival. I never actually went to it, and now apparently it's not on anymore. So oh well. And then Creamfields is another like contemporary music festival, but this time it's more like dance, techno, house, whatever, that kind of thing. And then Glastonbury is a very famous music festival that I went to once just before leaving for France. And I was actually volunteering, so I got in for free and actually got a really nice campsite with nice showers and nice toilets. Because the actual toilets are pretty horrific at Glastonbury, as they are at many music festivals. So I was at Glastonbury in 2007. That's a very good festival. It's amazing all the stuff there is, not just music, but all the extra stuff. And they only set it up for like 4 days. And you're just like, why wouldn't you just leave this in the field for like a year? Because there's so much cool stuff. Anyway. Yeah. They don't.
It's amazing. It's massive as well, isn't it, Glastonbury?
Yeah. Humongous, yeah.
Who did you see in 2007?
Well, I didn't have a ton of time to see different groups because I was like volunteering behind a bar. But who did I see? Oh God, 2007. I remember hearing Amy Winehouse, and she didn't sound good already in 2007.
Right.
And I saw, what's that group? The Killers, I think I saw. God, who was big in 2007? Yeah, I saw a few things. It was actually very hard to get around because, so it had rained. And the problem is, like, so it rains and then there's like rivers of mud, right? So the mud is really liquid and you can actually get through it quite easily. And then what happens is the mud starts to dry and you get this kind of mud that's like halfway between like wet and dry. And it is so like physically demanding to walk because you're like dragging yourself through the mud and the mud is like pulling you back. And I hardly slept, and then just walking around was like really physically demanding. It was an interesting experience.
Yeah.
For sure.
Absolutely. I've never been to Glastonbury. I don't know if I'd make it now. I'd be like, I'm too tired. One bad night in a tent, and I'd just be like, I just want to go home. Just get a good night's sleep, please.
I hate camping. I hate tents.
Really?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Just too many bad experiences in tents.
Yes. It can be a bit intense, can't it? The Glastonbury Festival.
Yes.
So, history of Glastonbury, 2007, the acts that performed there were Bjork, Shirley Bassey, Iggy Pop, CSS, The Go Team, Amy Winehouse, MIA, Kate Nash, Billy Bragg, Corinne Bailey Rae, Damian Marley, Lily Allen, and the Chemical Brothers were some of the acts that performed that year.
I was too busy serving beer to have seen all of those, but
yeah, very important. Very important. You were doing a very important job.
I was doing beer and cider. Oh God, the people got angry when we started to run out of cider.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, story for another time. So
yeah, there's basically the fuel. It's just fuel for the. So question 10. Do you want to read out question 10?
Yes. Who was the first Briton to win the Olympic gold medal in the 10,000 metres? I suppose I should read out the answers, shouldn't I? So we've got Mo Farah, David Weir, Bradley Wiggins, and Sir Chris Hoy. So Bradley Wiggins and Sir Chris Hoy do cycling. So there's no, as far as I know, there's not a 10,000 metre cycling event. That would be a bit short. Maybe unicycling.
I guess so, yeah.
Or something.
Yeah.
So Bradley Wiggins bizarrely won the Tour de France one year and then disappeared. Anyway. David Weir, I don't know what he does. Mo Farah, I believe is the answer.
Yes, I think so. The first Briton to win the Olympic gold medal in the 10,000 metres running. Yeah, it's Mo Farah. I mean, he's kind of like a famous Olympic hero in the UK, isn't it? Yeah, you're right.
There we
Mo
go.
Farah. Yeah, there you go. Let's move on. So, question 11. Which of these UK landmarks is in Wales? Which of these UK landmarks is in Wales? The options: Snowdonia, Loch Lomond, the Lake District, and the Giant's Causeway.
So
which one is in Wales?
That would be. I know where all of these are, and the answer is Snowdonia.
You're absolutely right. Snowdonia, which is an area, a sort of a national park type thing, and that's where one of the highest mountains in the UK is Mount Snowdon. But I've got listeners all over the place listening to this, including people probably who know about the Alps and the Andes and the Ural Mountains and stuff like that. Mount Snowdon, let's see how high it is.
It's probably not very high because what's the highest mountain in the UK is in Scotland, and I don't even think it's as high as the highest peak in the Jura Mountains, which are near me, and the highest peak here is around 1,400 metres, which is not that high really.
So Snowdon is 1,085 metres high.
Tiny little mountain.
I mean, I think that I think the room where I record these podcasts is higher than that, because the number of stairs I have to climb to get up here. It feels like it is, but yeah, that's it. It's more of a little hill, isn't it? Really, compared to some mountain ranges that we know of.
Yeah.
But yeah, just over 1,000 meters high, and the highest mountain in the UK is Ben Nevis in Scotland, 1,345 meters. Oh, so cute, aren't they? Our mountains.
But you say that, but like, I think it's got snow in it year round. I've never been up Ben Nevis, but I think it's got snow on it year round, and I think sort of the top of the ascent is a bit tricky because of that. Whereas, like in France, at that height, your mountain is going to be green for a lot of the year, so easier to walk up.
Yeah, because Ben Nevis being so much sort of further north.
Yeah,
it does get snow on the top. Okay, so Snowdonia is the correct answer. Loch Lomond is in.
It's near Glasgow. It's Glasgow's favourite. It's where you go in Glasgow to like go to the beach. Yes and no, because actually Glasgow is really near some beaches as well. Like it's near the coast as well. But Loch Lomond is a popular spot for like walking, weddings. I've been to weddings up there. Cousins have got married up there, and yeah, there's like a beach, if you can call it that, and you can go swim in the loch, and then there's lots of walks around. There's lots of mountains around the loch. Nice place.
Yeah. That's Loch Lomond, nice place to visit. The Lake District in England, which is also a nice place to visit. Lots of mountains and great places to go walking. Lakes, of course. The highest mountain in England is in the Lake District. Its name is Scafell Pike, and it is a total of 978 metres high. Not even 1,000
metres.
You can do it in a day.
You could walk up with your hands in your pockets, can of lager, cigarette in your mouth. Stroll up. Yeah.
And then the Giant's Causeway is an amazing place in Northern Ireland. I've never actually been there.
I've never been, but it looks really cool.
Yeah, it does. Moving on. Question 12. Where was Robert Burns from, Cara?
Oh, another tricky one for a Scottish person. So this is Scotland's national poet who wrote poems in Scots, which is the Scottish dialect. And he wrote poems about mice and haggis. So there's a poem about haggis that you read out on Burns Night. So actually, the other day, somebody posted something on LinkedIn about St. Andrew's Day. So St. Andrew is the patron saint of Scotland, and St. Andrew's Day, I think, is at the end of November. But honestly, nothing, as far as I know, really happens on St. Andrew's Day. And kind of the big Scottish night of the year is Burns Night, which is coming up soon. I think it's on the 25th of January, and that is a night where you eat haggis and you read the poetry of Robert Burns and you drink whiskey, and that's like the really, really Scottish celebration,
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
So the answer is Scotland, of course. You are right. You're doing pretty well. You're halfway through, okay, and you've got 10 out of 12. So that is that's strong. You're passing. You're going to be allowed back into Britain.
Well, now I'm a bit nervous about the next question.
So do you want to read the next question for us?
So the question is, who built the Tower of London? So very famous landmark across the Thames. So we've got some options. So they're all men. We've got Henry VII, Oliver Cromwell. That could be interesting to talk about. Henry VIII, or William the Conqueror. A Frenchman built it? What?
William the Conqueror, the Norman invader.
Yeah, it's a Viking, really.
1066. Yeah, because the Normans were kind of a Viking tribe, but they lived in the north of France.
French people couldn't care less about William the Conqueror and the invasion. They have no clue what all that's about, 1066 and all that. They're just like, what? But
for us, that is a hugely significant date, 1066, which is when the Normans invaded England and killed the king, and we had the French, quote-unquote, French or Norman royal family for a long time. Mm-hmm.
Yep, that shaped our language.
So, have you got any idea? The Tower of London, listeners, it's a tourist attraction, a castle on the banks of on the bank of the River Thames there, where the crown jewels are kept. There's lots of stories attached to the Tower of London, including stories of torture and other things.
They all seem relatively plausible. Oliver Cromwell doesn't seem very plausible because Cromwell was, I don't know what his actual title was, but there was a brief period. So the English cut off the head of a monarch 100 years before the French and installed a brief republic. So people don't know this. People are like, you love the Queen, you love the royal family, you're subjects, you're not citizens, you love your royal family. Hey, we chopped off the head of a king back in the day who was also called Charles. And yeah, Oliver Cromwell then became the, whatever his title was, head of this brief republic. But I think he would have been in charge so briefly, he wouldn't have had time to build the Tower of London. And that probably wasn't on his agenda. So I think we can rule him out. Go on.
Do you want a clue? It's medieval. It's a medieval castle.
Then it because Henry VII and Henry VIII, so this is like Tudor times, early modern period kind of thing. Well, I actually did think it was William the Conqueror. But it's in good shape for having been built. I mean, I'm assuming there's been various iterations over the years. Like, what's standing now is not what was originally built.
Yeah, because all the different kings have used it and stuff. It's the Tudors, famously used it a lot, and Henry VIII. Everyone's been proud of it over the years, and so on. So yeah, it's definitely been well maintained. But the main original basic structure of it
was.
We're gonna have to hurry you.
I know. We're going. I'm just like stalling. I'm gonna say William the Conqueror then.
Okay, is the correct answer. Well done. So, William the Conqueror was a guy. Well, he didn't make it himself. He's like, sorry, not right now. I'm building a castle. It wasn't like, William, can you do? No, I'm still building a castle. He didn't do it himself. He would have been exhausted. No, obviously he got some other people to do it, but he was in charge when it was done. But yeah, William the Conqueror brought lots of French castle building know-how. With him, and lots of the castles that were built in the medieval period were built during the reign of William the Conqueror and so on. Definitely his work. Cromwell, you mentioned him, interesting character. Sort of, we're talking about the 17th century here with Cromwell. He was known as the Lord Protector,
right?
The head of state of the Commonwealth of England, Scotland and Ireland. I don't think he was a very fun guy.
He wasn't. I heard he was pretty, maybe kind of very puritanical and very sort of like, no fun, probably no building stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, and I don't think he was very nice to the Irish.
Okay.
To put it mildly. Anyway, let's move on.
Yes.
Question number 14. So, question 14 is, when is St. David's Day? When is St. David's Day? You mentioned St. Andrew's Day, which is St. Andrew being the patron saint of Scotland, and you don't really celebrate his day that much, but St. David's Day is another one. So when is St. David's Day? Any idea?
Well, it's not the first answer, because the first answer is 30th of November, and that is St. Andrew's Day, that nobody in Scotland celebrates, seemingly. 17th of March, that is like an international day. That is St. Patrick's Day. 23rd of April.
St. Patrick being the patron saint of Ireland.
Ireland, yes.
Okay.
So it can't be that.
17th of March.
The 23rd. So it's either the 23rd of April or the 1st of March. And I think, having thought about it a little bit, I think it is the 1st of March, because I think the 23rd of April is St. George's Day, which is the English
the patron saint.
As if you needed a
England,
day.
Yeah.
All bloody year, it's all about you. England, 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 all day long.
Yeah.
Scotland, just an afterthought, along with Wales, Northern Ireland.
Those other bits, the little places. You're saying the 1st of March.
I'm saying the 1st of March.
You're right, of course. St. David's Day. St. David being the patron saint of Wales. And it's all about daffodils, isn't it?
And leeks, isn't it?
Right.
I don't know.
Leeks is the leek is their
it's a symbol.
Is their symbol.
I like leeks, but I don't think I'd have them as my national symbol.
You like leeks, you just wouldn't want to wear one.
No.
Because you can do that in Wales on the 1st of March. You can wear a leek on your lapel, to be patriotic and stuff. But also daffodils, I think. Daffodils, those beautiful yellow flowers that do come out at the beginning of March.
Yeah, around that time.
Which is always a wonderful, wonderful thing to see. It's like, spring is just around the corner. The daffodils are out. It's really a nice thing to see. So, yeah, it's sort of like, for me, synonymous with daffodils. Okay, so you got that one right as well. You're doing okay. Okay, question 15. This is one for the French. The French would love this question. Read it out, please, Cara.
Roast beef. Roast beef. Roast beef is a traditional food of which country? This is so silly. I can't believe this is on the test. So we've got England, Northern Ireland, Scotland, or Wales. It's
a great way to push the stereotype of
it is a little bit.
Le roast beef.
Well, that'll be the English, because the Scottish eat haggis, the Welsh have got their leeks, and God knows what they eat in Northern Ireland.
England, yes, roast beef is a traditional food.
I can't believe that's a...
Yeah, the French people are like, we told you the roast beef, you always eat the roast beef. That's a terrible French accent. What was that? I don't know. Moving on. Question 16. When did the first Christian communities appear in Britain? When did the first Christian communities appear in Britain? The options: in the 1st and 2nd centuries, in the 4th and 5th centuries, in the 3rd and 4th centuries, or the 2nd and 3rd centuries. Why do they put them in the weird order?
Oh yeah, that is odd.
1st and 2nd, 4th and 5th, 3rd and 4th, 2nd and 3rd. Just put it in the right order. I don't know why they put it in the wrong order. Just to confuse you. Yeah.
Well, I guess after the decline of the Roman Empire. I mean, it could be... I don't have a bloody clue. It could be as early as the 1st and 2nd. I mean, all of these look pretty plausible, right? It's not like they've got like the 1st and 2nd and then like the 17th and 18th or,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all within the first 500 years or
yeah, that's a pretty generous timeline, isn't it?
So basically, right, listeners, before the Romans invaded, Britain was sort of Celtic pagan culture, just people with their bodies painted in with body paints and like waving sticks in the air and a lot of hair. And then the Romans came along with all their technology and stuff, and they had several attempts to invade England. The first attempt, the English, I don't know if they were called the English.
I was going to say, weren't we like, we were like Celtic tribes or whatever?
Exactly. Queen Boudica or Boadicea. They fought against the Romans and beat them and burned down the Roman temple and all this stuff. It's very dramatic. Great stuff. Great for movies. Great for Hollywood movies. And then the Romans came back again, and they actually did then sort of like establish their power and stuff like that. And that all happened in the first, basically, essentially the first 50 years after Christ.
Okay, that's helpful for me. But the Romans did eventually convert to Christianity themselves, didn't they?
Mm-hmm. So that they may have brought it with them.
They could have brought it with them.
A bit like COVID or something. Like cough. Oh, sorry, but we're spreading Christianity all around. Anyway, sorry.
Oh God. Well, okay, that does actually help me. Because I was like, Romans, that's before Christ. but yeah, there is they did continue.
The Romans were still around after Christ.
They were still around. Yeah, they didn't give up. Their civilization didn't collapse.
It's not when Christ was killed on the cross and all the Romans just died, like at the end of some movie, like at the end of Lord of the Rings. Like Christ died for our sins, and poof, all the Romans fell over,
obliterated.
Like when Christ died.
Right, we're not going to spend an hour on these weird ideas. Let's go for the 2nd and 3rd. I have to pick one, don't I?
2nd and 3rd you're going for. You can reckon it took a couple of 100 years for Christianity to kind of brew and really sort of like take hold.
TikTok back then.
It took longer for trends to occur. Yeah, you're wrong. You're wrong. Unfortunately, it was the 3rd and 4th centuries, of course.
Ye olde TikTok was even slower to spread.
It took them 300 to 400 years to establish Christian communities in Britain. The probably Christians came in and like, do you bring Christianity? It's like, no, sorry, it's too cold. All right, back home we go. Go back to the southern Mediterranean.
Yeah, we like being pagans. So let me get on with my druid stuff.
Yeah, that's right.
Or weird pagan Roman mixture or whatever they were doing. We don't really know. I'm sure people do know, but I don't know.
Must have been quite a lot. Yeah, I'm sure historians have got a fairly good idea.
They've got an idea. They've got a bit of a grasp of what they were up to.
Like in Cambridge and Oxford universities, like the historians, we'd just we'd like to ask you, professor of, of Roman, British, pagan history, about when were the first Christian communities? Well, I don't know really. We've just got only a vague idea. Next, question 17. Which of the following is part of the UK? Oh, okay. Which of the following is part of the UK, Cara?
Okay.
Can you read the options?
Yeah. So St Helena, Canada, Wales, or the Channel Islands.
So the first one's St Helena.
What did I say?
Which is an island
Helena.
Miles away.
Yeah, Helena. That's like in the middle of the Atlantic, isn't it?
Helena, yeah, it's in the middle of the Atlantic, blooming miles away.
Yeah.
That's where Napoleon was sent, isn't it?
Oh, right. Because I was going to say, there is some kind of British connection, though, with this island, given that the British
we stole it.
Invaded everywhere. Yeah, unfortunately.
We kept it. That's the connection.
Canada's interesting because the head of state is the British monarch.
But is it part of the UK?
No, it's not part of the UK. But it is kind of ridiculous that the head of state is like the king. Sorry, Canada. Might want to get your own head of state.
No, some of them agree with you, especially in Quebec.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty confident that the Channel Islands is interesting because you might think that they have a weird status, don't they? The Channel Islands. So here we'd be talking about what? Guernsey, Jersey, Sark. I've never visited these islands, but I've been to Brittany on holiday, and if you're in Saint Malo, you see the ferry coming in from Jersey, and there's lots of, back and forth. Because those islands aren't
islands which are in the English Channel, as you said exactly. They're actually kind of pretty much quite close to the French coast rather than the English coast, but they identify more with the UK, I think. But are they part? So those islands, are they part of the UK? And listeners, just to remind you, Wales is in the list here. So I don't know why we're discussing this. I don't know why we're so much.
Just to fill up time, because it's not as if this episode is already really, really long and we still have a bunch of questions. Wales is part of the UK. Come on, but the others, there is some potential for confusion here. I can see what they're trying to do. They're trying to trick you. They're trying to trip you up and stop you from getting British nationality.
So Wales is obviously the answer, but St Helena and the Channel Islands do have some kind of connection to the UK. We're not entirely sure what it is, because unlike France, where they've got their overseas territories in France, which are considered to be like mainland France, and it's all very clear cut and very, very clearly defined. The relationship that the UK has with some of those overseas places, like the Channel Islands, which is not that far away, and St Helena and some others, is not that, it's not so clearly defined, is it?
Kind of weird.
I won't even mention the Malvinas, the Falklands. I'm not even going to mention that. Oops, no. I did. Oops.
Too late.
Anyway, that's a sore point. I have no interest in talking about that really. And Canada, as you said, yes, it's part of the Commonwealth. So the head of state of Canada is King Charles, was the Queen. Anyway, Wales is part of the UK because the UK is 4 countries: England, Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland. Moving on. Okay.
Oh, interesting.
Question 18. Cara, can you read this?
Which 2 are British overseas territories? British overseas territories. I think we've just answered the questions that we had, Luke, because the options are Ireland. Sorry, that just made me laugh. Hawaii. That's also a funny one. St Helena and the Falkland Islands. So I'm pretty confident that that St. Helena and the Falkland Islands must have their status. It's not part of the UK, but they are considered British overseas territories. Now, what that actually means, I don't really know, but that's their status.
So I've just Googled British overseas territories, and I'm on the Wikipedia page for it. So the British overseas... Now, you've chosen your options. It's St. Helena and the Falkland Islands. And you're right, of course. I mean, Hawaii... Hawaii is a state of the United States of America. There's no way that is a British overseas territory. And Ireland, also not in any shape or form. It's completely independent from the UK and a EU member state and so on. But the British Overseas Territories, also known as the United Kingdom Overseas Territories, are 14 territories with a constitutional and historical link with the United Kingdom. They are the last remnants of the former British Empire and do not form part of the United Kingdom itself. The permanently inhabited territories are internally self-governing, with the United Kingdom retaining responsibility for defence and foreign relations. 3 of the territories are inhabited chiefly or only by a transitory population of military or scientific personnel. But all but one of the rest are listed by the UN Special Committee on Decolonisation as non-self-governing territories. All 14 have the British monarch as head of state. These UK government responsibilities are assigned to various departments of the Foreign and Commonwealth Office and are subject to change. So that's why people are not so sure about these things, because it's bloody confusing.
Yeah.
We could go into the current overseas territories include Anguilla in the Caribbean, Bermuda, British Antarctic Territory. That's probably a section of the Antarctic. British Indian Ocean Territory. Is, I guess, part of the Indian Ocean. Does it include some islands? British Virgin Islands, the Cayman Islands, the Falkland Islands, Gibraltar, of course, Montserrat in the Caribbean, Pitcairn, Henderson, Ducie, Ueno Islands in the Pacific Ocean, St. Helena, Ascension, and Tristan da Cunha, oh my God, in the South Atlantic Ocean, South Georgia and the South Sandwich Islands, where they love sandwiches, and sovereign base areas of other places. Oh, Cyprus. Yeah.
Oh.
It's all a bit tricky and a bit complicated.
Some of these are tax havens.
Now.
So like the Cayman Islands is a tax haven. So if we're hanging on to that, well, that's because of rich people.
Very suspicious and slightly dodgy.
We have all these dodgy things we're still holding on to that we probably should have handed back to someone. Anyway, let's not create another diplomatic spat. I used to know a guy from Bermuda in Besançon, a guy, and he talked like a British guy. You know, he sounded like he was from Britain, but he was actually from Bermuda. So that makes sense given the status of Bermuda. He used to run a bar in Besançon. Don't know how he ended up here.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. I've never met someone from Bermuda, which is very mysterious. Why? Where are they? Oh, they're in Bermuda. That's why. I've never been there.
But we know all about their shorts.
That's right.
Bermuda
shorts and the Bermuda Triangle.
Very popular.
Right. Anyway. Right. Moving on. We've got to get through this. Okay, you can see this is out of date, this version of the test that I've got here. Question 19 says, who is Queen Elizabeth II married to? Should be who was Queen Elizabeth II married to. These are, by the way,
and the options are very funny.
The test that I'm using here is these are sample tests or practice tests from a website that, that gives you free practice for this. So who is or who was Queen Elizabeth II married to? Was it Prince Harry, Prince William, Prince Charles, or Prince Philip? Was she married to one of her grandsons? Was she married to her son? Or was she married to her husband? Which one?
Now we know there are some controversies in the royal family. Controversies.
Controversies.
Word stress wrong here. They can be a controversial family at times, but The Queen was never married to her son or grandsons. That's the least we can say. She was married to Prince Philip the Greek.
Yep. Bingo. Well done. Another question in the bag. Question 20. What palace was a cast iron and plate glass building originally erected in Hyde Park, London, England, to house the Great Exhibition of 1851? So what palace was made of iron and plate glass? So a building that looked like a big greenhouse because it had large glass plates and cast iron framework. What palace was made of iron and glass, originally erected in Hyde Park in London to house the Great Exhibition of 1851? The options: is it the Great Palace? Is it the Gold Palace? Is it the Dream Palace? Or is it Crystal Palace?
So I think it must be Crystal Palace. And it's funny, we were watching the UK football,
Premiership,
England
the Premiership.
Football. What's it called? The Premiership. And there was like Arsenal against Tottenham, and I was thinking about other clubs in London, and I thought about Crystal Palace. So there is a football club called Crystal Palace. I was like, why is it called Crystal Palace? But I guess their ground must be near
Crystal Palace,
which is an actual thing.
It does sound like something from a...
So I'm saying Crystal Palace.
You're saying Crystal Palace. It's the right answer, Cara. It is Crystal Palace. So that palace that was erected for the Great Exhibition of 1851 in Hyde Park, they moved it to the south of London, and that area is now called Crystal Palace. And it's got a football club and a park and a big Crystal Palace thing. It sounds amazing, doesn't it?
Or a giant greenhouse, as you said.
A giant greenhouse, basically. Yeah. Where you can grow tomatoes and stuff. I don't think they do grow tomatoes there. I don't know. I haven't checked, to be honest. Maybe they do. Crystal Palace. Get all your tomatoes. 3 for £1. That's expensive. What am I talking about? Number 21. Which 2 British film actors... You can see again how old this is. Which 2 British film actors have recently won Oscars? Is it Colin Firth, Jackie Stewart, Tilda Swinton, or Leonardo DiCaprio, that famous British film actor? So Colin Firth, Jackie Stewart, Tilda Swinton, or Leonardo DiCaprio. Which 2 have won Oscars recently?
I'm going to go with Colin Firth and Tilda Swinton.
Yeah, absolutely. Bang. Right. Jackie Stewart, he's a blooming Formula One racing driver.
Race car driver, yeah.
And Leonardo DiCaprio is very American. So, yeah, you're right. Colin Firth, I think he won it for...
maybe The King's Speech?
The King's Speech. The King's Peach. Not The King's Peach. The King's Speech. And Tilda Swinton for... We Need to Talk About Kevin, is it?
Oh, really? I feel like she could win an Oscar for every film she's in. She's always brilliant.
She's great.
Scottish.
Ah, yeah. Tilda Swinton, Oscar.
She doesn't sound very Scottish, but...
Michael Clayton. She got an Academy Award for her performance in Michael Clayton, which is the name of a film, not just the name of a person.
It sounds like it's just the name of a dude.
She got an Oscar for her performance in Michael Clayton. It's like, what did she do to Michael Clayton that she did it so well? Michael Clayton was so satisfied that they gave her an Oscar because of her performance in Michael Clayton. No, it's a film. Ah, right. Next, question 22. Which flower is associated with England, Cara? What are the options?
I'll read them then. So, thistle, shamrock, daffodil, or rose. So we talked about daffodils earlier, and not only are they a symbol of spring, but also a symbol of Wales. The shamrock is Irish, well, like associated with Ireland, obviously. The thistle is the Scottish flower, prickly flower. You don't want to sit on a thistle. You'll get a sore bum. And the rose is the flower associated with England.
Yeah. That's right.
And probably other places in the world, because it's not the only place that has roses.
Yeah, I don't think we can claim exclusive rights to the rose, can we?
We can those British overseas territories, but not the rose.
We're the only rugby team with a rose on our shirt. The Japanese rugby team have got a flower on theirs as well. It's a cherry blossom, very pretty.
Oh, that's nice.
That's nice, isn't it? Yeah. So rose, England, daffodil, Wales, shamrock, clover, which we all know from the Irish pubs that are everywhere, and thistle.
I actually have this is a 4-leaf clover in a bit of perspex, and this is actually a present that one of my friends made for me before I moved to France to bring me luck.
That's
nice. A 4-leaf clover that he found when he was a little kid, and they're quite rare. So
wow,
I appreciate that.
That's lovely.
Yeah,
because it's extremely rare to find a 4-leaf clover, and it's supposed to be very good luck to find one.
Yeah,
and that's nice. That's very nice. And the thistle, is the Scottish one, very spiky and thorny. Okay, so rose is the answer, of course. Right, the penultimate question.
There we
go. So the question is, who appoints life peers? And my listeners are going, okay, I know the word who, but I didn't get the other words. What? Who? What? Who appoints life peers? Do you want to have a go at explaining the question?
Yeah, so we have to talk about that most undemocratic of institutions. We don't really know why it still exists. So, I guess, a lot of countries, their parliament has, 2... Oh, God, I'm not very good with governance and politics, but, a lot of countries have, 2 chambers, don't they? So the US has, Congress and then a Senate. In France, there's also 2 chambers. It's quite a common thing. So in the UK, you have, here I'm talking about Westminster, London,
House of Commons and the House of Commons and the House of Lords.
Yeah. So the House of Commons is your standard. That's your MPs, your members of Parliament. So we vote for them. We vote them into Parliament, don't we? When it's the general election, we don't vote for a president or whatever. We vote for, your representative.
Individual representatives of each constitution who then take a seat in the House of Commons, and the ones who've got the most seats have the right to form a government. That's kind of how it works. They govern. And the leader of that government becomes the Prime Minister, but we don't actually vote for a president or something.
No, we don't vote for them directly.
So that's the House of Commons.
Our head of state is it's the House of Commons. And then so our second chamber then is this rather shady, undemocratic kind of chamber called the House of Lords, and the members of the House of Lords are called peers, right? And I think there was there not some reform of the House of Lords under Labour? Because wasn't it in the past that you could only become a peer in the House of Lords if your dad was a peer or something? It was a hereditary thing, was it not?
Yes, so that's right. So there were several types of peer. So a peer is just another word essentially for someone who sits in the House of Lords. So we have MPs or members of Parliament in the House of Commons, and then we have peers or lords in the House of Lords. A lord, to be honest, the word lord is a kind of very broad term that can be used for many different types of person. Yeah, a lord is like an earl or a duke or a member of a peer in the House of Lords. All those things can be lords or a rich, powerful landowner. There used to be hereditary peers. These are ones. That's when you inherited your title from your father.
That's mad, isn't it?
Which is it's like the royal family. It's the same kind of arrangement, but
same principle. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, these days our aristocracy is getting smaller and smaller and smaller, you could argue, to the point where it's only going to be the nuclear family, of the royal family, really. But in the past, it was a much larger network that included all these other people, including a network of inheritance, hereditary power, power that you inherit from your your parents, your father probably. And so, the House of Lords, a lot of the people who sat in there making big decisions, being part of the executive and legislative process, had just inherited that power. And that has been reformed, and now that's not possible anymore. And instead, the peers, or the ones who have the right to be in the House of Lords until they die, they are chosen. They're appointed. They're given their power. So we don't choose those people directly. Instead, the government, who we have kind of voted into power, they get to choose who the Lords will be. Which is like, what? So what? They
You've
can
just
just
eliminated
choose
an
them?
answer there. They can well, haven't there been some scandals around that in terms of like money and influence and sort of buying your way into the House of Lords?
Well, there's been scandals in the Conservative Party about certain Conservative Party members who are lords in the House of Lords, essentially using their power for personal profit. There have been cases of that.
Surprising.
Yeah. A lot of corruption in the government at the moment. So who chooses them though? Is it the monarch? So in this case, the King Charles, or is it the Speaker? That's the person who is kind of like the moderator of the House of Commons, the one who goes order, order, and fails to control
a gavel on the table.
Yeah. Or is it the Prime Minister? At the moment, Rishi Sunak, or is it the shadow cabinet? That means the members of Parliament from the opposition party who are not in power. They're known as the shadow cabinet. So is it them who get to choose? Well, what do you think, Cara?
What do I think? I don't think it's the monarch. I don't think it's the shadow cabinet. That doesn't really make any sense. I don't think it's the Speaker either. Although that seems slightly more plausible than the others. I would suggest the Prime Minister by process of elimination.
Yeah. Oh God, no! It's apparently
it
life
is the
peers.
monarch. Oh my God! What an undemocratic system! Who invented this? What?
Life peers are appointed by the monarch on the advice of the Prime Minister. So hey, hold on a minute. Hold on. This is one of those things. This is one of those powers that the king has, which are sort of symbolic powers, in the same way that the king stamps all new laws which are made. You know, it's the final part of the process. The king has to kind of go yes or no to all the new laws.
Quick autograph, Your Majesty.
Yeah, and the king, or formerly the queen, would always just say yes. You know, it's just part of a sort of a administrative constitutional thing. So the life peers are appointed by the monarch, by the king, but it's actually the Prime Minister who chooses them. And the Prime Minister just goes to the king and goes, so here's the list of the new life peers that we'd like to appoint. Can you just sign that off? And the king's like, oh, you know, you want me to just tick these? Where do I sign? You know, and so it's the king who does it, but it's the Prime Minister.
It's really the Prime Minister's decision. Yeah.
Okay.
However, for the citizenship test, you must say the monarch.
For that, and it's appoint, not who chooses, but who appoints them.
Appoints, yeah. So it's kind of like you say, the final signing off.
For me, appoint is a bit like pointing at the person and going, you, right? But it's the Prime Minister who's whispering into the king's ear going, choose Cara Leopold, okay? And the king's like, oh, that lady over there, okay.
Choose these party donors who gave us...
choose Cara Leopold. She gave us £5 million. And she was instrumental in gaining PPE, personal protective equipment contracts, which made us a lot of money. So just, choose her. And the king's like, okay, whatever you say, you. And then just points at you.
Yeah.
So he appoints you. Yeah. Question number 24. Which charity works to preserve important buildings? Which charity, like non-profit organisation, works to preserve important buildings? Old buildings.
Yeah, not just any old building, but very much like grand old buildings,
Like Downton Abbey.
Which is not a real place. Well, I mean...
Like, it's not a real place.
It is a real place. I mean, it's not called Downton Abbey.
Yeah, but that kind of place. It's those sorts of old buildings that would have been owned by earls and dukes and the Marquis of whatever, Like, there's loads of them all across the country, these amazing country houses that would have been owned by members of the aristocracy, but they're essentially, they got bought by a charity, and the charity works to maintain those buildings, keep them in good condition, and open them up to the public so the public can come and visit them. It's great. It's a fantastic thing. But do you know which one it is?
Yeah, I think this is actually a good question and a good thing to know if you're going to live in the UK.
Yeah. So it's Age UK, or it's the Red Cross, or it's the National Trust, or it's the NSPCC.
Right. I know this, and it's the National Trust, because I've visited many properties with my parents. They are members of the National Trust, and if you're a member, you get into places free. I mean, like, you pay for the year kind of thing, and then you can go anywhere for free.
Yeah, same with my parents. Also were members of the National Trust, and on holidays and stuff, we used to go and visit National Trust properties. And yeah, if you are going to live in the UK, or at least spend some time on a holiday there or something like that, then yeah, you should know about the National Trust. And there are some really nice things that you can go and see that are controlled and organised by the National Trust, and it's a kind of a good thing, generally a good thing. Yeah, the Age UK, that's a charity for elderly people. The Red Cross is just like general sort of medical charity helping those in need. And the NSPCC, the National Society for the Protection of Children. What is it? What does it stand for?
No, I think it might be the Prevention of Cruelty to Children.
Right. Yeah. The National Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Children. It's a British child protection charity. Yeah, you're right. You are right. Yeah. So there we go. So you're going the National Trust. Finished the test. Here are the results, Cara. Your time, it took you 1 hour and 11 minutes. So that's probably a bit too long. But that's my bit. You did have me like talking a lot in your ear while you were doing the test. Like, can you just shut up and try to do the citizenship test? Stop distracting me with your stupid comments. So you answered 20 out of 24 questions correctly. You got 83.3 recurring %.
Amazing. Had a
well done,
tiny
you passed.
Little bit of help. Tiny clues.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty pleased with that. There you go. That's a pass, isn't it?
Yeah. That's a pass. It's a good pass. Yeah. It's a strong pass. I'd give you a B+.
Cool. I get let back into the country.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Not that you actually want to go back to the country, but if you want, the option is open. The door is still open for you if you want to go back in. Yeah. So there we go, everybody. I think we really need to wrap this up because I know my episodes are long, but I have to try and keep them under control to some extent. And so there you are, listeners. I hope you kind of learned a thing or two. Cara, did you learn anything from doing that?
I did. I learned what the cenotaph is, and I revised some history of Roman Britain and early Christianity and the Tower of London. So yeah, it was good. I still don't know what British Overseas Territory is, but I know that some of them are tax havens, and so that's why we must still have them. And I'm really shocked that the House of Lords is still as undemocratic as ever.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, there it is. There you go, listeners. A snapshot of Britain, British history, British life.
It's corrupt country.
Yeah,
with its daffodils and leeks.
It's like, yeah, it's a bit corrupt, but just don't mention that. Just like kind of sweep that under the carpet. Look, nice castles. Cara, thank you very much for your contribution. Remind us again where people can go to kind of get some lessons and help from you about improving their English with films and TV series.
Yeah, so they can go to you mentioned leo-listening.com. That's my website. You can download a guide there called Understand Movies in English, which hopefully helps you to do that. And then people can also follow me on LinkedIn. I started a weird thing last year. I started posting on LinkedIn regularly, and it's actually been quite good. I used to think LinkedIn was the worst place ever, but it's actually quite nice posting on there. So if you like search for Cara Leopold, I think I'm probably the only one, so you'll find me. And yeah, those are the best places.
Fantastic.
Good. Hang out with me.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much again. I hope that you can survive the cold weather that is coming, and that you don't just freeze, like you just be a block of ice. No, you'll be all right. You're from Scotland.
I think I'll be fine. Yeah, exactly. Used to it.
Okay. Right. Have a nice rest of the afternoon, and see you soon.
Thanks. You too. See you soon.
Okay. Cheers.